One side's outside and the outside's in. I dream all day just to know where I've been. Like a ghost in a second skin. When one side's outside and the outside's in. Bye, 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 you drift away, baby, drift away. But I can't jump in, and I fall on my knees to peel back the skin. When one side's outside and the outside's in. You drift away, baby, drift away. But don't back down, baby, don't back down. You drift away, baby, drift away.
All right, sorry about that quick little blip in there. The Wi-Fi connection, maybe we'll say it's that. Anyways, the band you just heard there was Three Little Birds. That was Outside In from their self-titled debut record that came out last May. So they are Aaron Adair, Amelia Leclerc, and Angela Schliehoff, and they're from Ottawa. Excellent group. They were a 2012 Canadian Folk Music Award nominee. They speak their mind candidly on social political issues. You might have seen them play at the Jazz Festival, Tulip Festival. Hopefully this year we'll see them at Blues Fest. We don't know. That's going to be the announcement will be coming out soon. They played a great show at Avant Garde a couple weeks ago. That's where I met them. So a lovely little band. We'll be hearing more about them in the future. So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nick Bachewski.
I'm Andrew Miller.
And we are here with the counselor from the Alta Vista Ward, Mr. Peter Hume. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Thank you very much. So you were a counselor voted in 1991, so a very, very long-running counselor. You've seen so much happen in Ottawa, and you're the chairman of the City of Ottawa's Planning Committee, so lots of stuff on the go, and we're going to get to that in a bit. But first, I guess we just want to get to know a little bit about you. Maybe start with how did you first get in to be a city councillor? What made you...
Well, I'm going to be honest. I didn't really want to be a politician when I started out. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Well, of course. My dad was in the military, and he bought jets for a living, so I thought, man, who wouldn't want to go fast, fly jets? And but there's that group of employment is very small, and you have to be extremely talented. And before I could sort of follow that path, a summer job working for the City of Ottawa, I thought, hey, I can, this politician thing, that's pretty good. Maybe I'll try that for a little while. So. November 1991, my first election, and been reelected ever since. Now, but I'll give you the secret to getting elected.
Okay,
a great partner, because it was my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, who said to me, "Yeah, this is going to be fun," and lent me the money to run the campaign.
Wow!
Oh, wow!
Yeah, so she started.
Well, that's what they say. Behind every great man's a good woman, right?
Yeah, so. or a great partner. I mean,
great partner.
It doesn't really matter. But she was very supportive. I don't know what she'd say now, but whether that $5,000 was well spent. But
so she helped you on the campaign trail the whole time?
Absolutely. She and my mother actually were, two strong women were. The backbone of that early campaign, because when you run for office, at least in the beginning, it's your friends and family who help you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Knock on doors, who put up signs, who run the books.
Because they're the ones that know you initially.
Exactly, and it's real. I was very lucky because I'd worked for the councillor who was, or the alderman at the time. In the local area, and the electoral districts were much smaller, so I had a uh, 23 wards and a mayor, so 24 of us, and we span from West Carleton to Cumberland. The mayor has a great story. He says, if you took Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton, you could fit them all in our city's boundaries, and he's quite right.
Yeah.
So we have a huge undiscovered country right next to our urban area, and that's our rural communities.
Yeah.
A real gem in Ottawa. And if you were visiting Ottawa, and if there was one thing I would say to a person who visits Ottawa, is get out and get out into our rural community. Go and see the festivals that go on, the farmers market. Everyone wants to go to the farmers market in the Byward Market and in Lansdowne, but those are just microcosms of some of the bigger, the Metcalf Market, the Metcalf Fair,
and the fairs. I was just going to say, I know every community around, and I grew up in a small town, and the fairs are where it's at. I mean, for the summertime, that's where all the fun is, and everyone looks.
So you
forward
make a
to
weekend
it.
every weekend.
Yeah, and they're pretty much staggered like that too. And any surrounding communities that are like, they know when the other town's going to have their fair, so they plan them accordingly. So almost every weekend, you could go to a different fair all summer long.
And we often talk about visitors from Ottawa going out into our rural neighborhoods, into our rural communities. No, I mean, it should be all of Ottawa.
Yeah.
There are some really cool things that happen at these country fairs and at the farmers markets. I mean, I bought my bedroom set at the farmers market from a guy whose business was the woodchuck, he called himself.
Oh, wow.
Custom made bedroom set. You told him what he wanted, you gave him the measurements, and a couple months later, he delivered it directly to your house.
And that's helps supporting local. That's great.
Absolutely. And the woodchuck. And my sister, of course, I said, "This is great. You got to go out." My sister had stuff, and so we still have blanket boxes and deacon's benches and things that he's made, incredibly finely crafted stuff that has served my family well for 20 years. Got to get out of the. We often focus on the urban area. A lot of cool stuff happens there, but out in our rural neighborhoods, fantastic.
Well, especially with.
Okay.
So you got to get out to the sugar shack. That's the place to talk about that part of our rural economy, because it's very exciting. I mean, there are lots of farms in our rural areas, prize-winning cattle. But so if you're going to see all the national institutions in Ottawa and in Hull, you got to get out and see some of the great farmers markets. Real farmers markets outside of the urban area.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. What about any other extracurricular activities you like to do? Because you work so hard in the office, long hours, and what about weekends or in the summer, winter?
Well, funny you mention that. It's the biggest challenge is not. Let me start over. When I was first married, my wife and I, you spent 4 or 5 nights a week. Out going to various events, going out in the community. I mean, it was just sort of nonstop. But as soon as we had a family, you have now another element that enters into the equation. And early on, you could get a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
But now the activities are focused on, we've got to go to a play next Tuesday for school. Are you coming to my concert? And my daughter competitively skis, so I spend a tremendous amount of time on the top of Mont Cascade in the howling wind, as I did last night, as they're training for ski racing. So we spend a lot of time.
Where are most of the races taking place?
It gets us all across the region. Edelweiss on the Quebec side, Mont Sainte Marie, Vorlage, all the way to Calabogie. And Camp Fortune. So, you spend your time training at Mont Cascade, where her home club is. So that's Saturdays and Sundays and Wednesday nights, and through the ski season, and then your 6 or 7 weekends, your 6 or 7 weekend days. So you're out driving in the early morning to these other resorts for races. So
Oh, that's cool.
that's where we spend most of the winter. And sometimes, ski racing, as I thought, oh yeah, it only happens on snow. No, there's dryland training.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of other mental training. You can ski on the glacier in Whistler in the summertime.
Okay.
So,
You can.
So
you learn that these things, you don't have to go. I always thought you had to go to Chile to ski in the summer. Not so much.
What is she looking to become an Olympian? Is that a
Oh, well,
What
you know,
about the
she's-
Ontario Winter Games?
She's 13, so she's and she's only been racing for 3 years. So she's in a developmental program, so I'm sure as any kid, she'd love to go to the Olympics. So she's too soon. Maybe Korea, where in Pyeongchang, which is the next one in 2018. She'll be 19? We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll keep our eyes out.
Yeah,
Lindsey
me
Vonn.
too.
Yeah.
Now she doesn't like Lindsey Vonn,
Really? Tiger Woods' girlfriend.
Yeah, she's more the racer from Slovenia, who is just a fabulous skier that she watches over, and some of the Canadians she follows.
Mm-hmm.
So, she's Lindsey Vonn's too flashy, and she's dating Tiger Woods. That's not good.
All right, so let's get into some of your roles in the City of Ottawa. So you're the chair of the City of Ottawa's Planning Committee. What does that entail, and what drew you to such a hot topic? This is a very important committee for the city.
Well, when I first started in as a councillor, we were a suburb. And we were still growing. There was lots of things happening. So there was a natural gravitation to planning and planning issues. And planning is one of the things that, there's two things. There's the service side about garbage and water and sewer. But, those are very routine services that happen every day. I mean, you flush your toilet, you expect it to flush. But planning is something that touches your community very, very directly and profoundly. So, when you start to look at things in the municipal world, you say, I want to be where I can really, where the action is. And, be on a construction zone building a sewer, that's good, and that's important, but it's not right in the heart of the action. So, I learned very quickly that planning, you can have a profound impact on how your city develops and how your city changes. So, I developed an interest in planning, urban planning, and as a result, for the last, since 2007, I've chaired the planning side of the City of Ottawa. It used to be planning and environment, so we used to have the pipes and the pavement all in and planning meshed together.
Mm-hmm.
We've separated that since Jim Watson became mayor, to highlight really both of our functions. So the environment and the environment is not only what we would consider trees and the environment, but it's also pipes, it's also sewers, it's also water.
And you're also a member of the Environment Committee
right,
as well.
Exactly. So that we want to highlight that. We want to give it more profile. So we've split the two committees off to give them equal play and equal profile. That one is not diminished by the other, and there is a real cross-reference to the two of them. So my role now as chairman of the planning committee is I'm responsible for the stewardship of planning issues. Before the committee. The committee is the decision maker and recommends to the council. I make sure that the committee has all the tools it needs to make an informed and proper decision. All the procedures and protocols are followed. The other thing I'm responsible for is once committee decides what the overall mandate or direction we're going to give to the department to achieve some of the 12 issues we're going to talk about a little earlier on. My responsibility is to make sure that the department delivers on those the issues that committee has set for them. So I don't set those issues myself, but once committee does, it's my responsibility to make sure that we get these things done.
How often do you meet?
We meet every 2 weeks. The committee meets every 2 weeks. I have an ongoing series of meetings with people in the department as we move files through the bureaucracy. I meet with the general manager, and I sit down every week for an hour to talk about where we're at, so that we talk by email or by phone pretty much every day.
And can the public watch the committee meetings as well?
Absolutely. You can listen to them online. They're all online. You can come down and watch them in person. Hopefully soon you'll be able to watch them live streaming. They're audio cast now, but hopefully you'll be able to hear all of that.
And you're the president of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. What does that entail?
Well, I'm the past president of the president, but the association. And that is actually a fascinating role, because a lot of people don't realize that municipalities don't have they're governments, but they're not governments chartered by their own piece of legislation. They're not recognized in the Constitution, for example. So we are what is commonly known as a creature of the province. So we derive all of our authority and all of our regulatory authority not by right, but by legislation. So when we want to go and do things, we have to lobby the province to change legislation. So municipalities got together and said, okay, if we're going to affect change of the province, we got to be able to go and become, for lack of a better word, lobbyists. Yeah. So we come together as a group of municipalities, all 443 of them, and we formed an organization that lobbies for positive changes on behalf of municipalities, whether that's controversial change like photo radar or legislative change in things like arbitration or development charges. Mm-hmm. So we don't have the authority to say we're going to change the way we get money from developers. That's legislation. We don't have the authority to say we're going to impose a new way of taxing residents. That comes from legislation that the province gives us. So we have to lobby them to change or to improve the legislation that we work under. Because as everyone knows, the legislation that's passed 25 years ago may not have any relevance to today's world. And also we advocate for change. And what that does is it's exciting because we really deal with on-the-ground issues, like really meaty stuff. The province delivers things like healthcare and education. We pick up your garbage, we deal with your water, and we establish landfill sites, and we do all those other things. We run transit systems, street lights, traffic signals, police departments. So we're often the range of issues and the things that need changing is really fascinating, because every day something new is coming forward, and so it's exciting to, oh my God, I didn't know that it's always something new. And when you're in your jobs, I'm sure every time you see something new or you face a new challenge, it's like, hey, that is really interesting, and it sort of
keeps life exciting.
Exactly what it does. So as president, I had to knit together all of the disparate interests of the municipal world, because, as you know, there's different interests in rural and small town Ontario. Yeah. There's small urban places like the Sioux and Orillia. The northern issues are much different than our issues. And then there are the issues like of Ottawa and Toronto and other places like transit. I'll tell you a funny story. We're trying to figure out what we do with wildlife. Yeah. And one of my friends, colleagues from Northern Ontario, stood up and said, hey, you guys just don't get it here in urban Ontario. Out-of-town bears are a real problem. And Howard Moscow, the former councillor from the City of Toronto, stood up and goes, I don't think they're any more of a problem than in-town bears are. And, it just highlighted that he was making light of what they call bears that come from out of town into town. Yeah. But the guy said, you're proving my point. You don't know anything about what I'm talking about. And knitting all of those disparate interests together and creating that coalition is actually very, very exciting. And, bears who wander in from out of the town, they're a huge problem for. You're walking down the street, you turn the corner, and there's a black bear.
Well, it's like we see a couple more coyotes get into our town. But,
and wild turkeys in Barhaven.
So
a bunch of issues.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Livable Ottawa. The main reason we want to talk to you now, because the Livable Ottawa survey is ongoing right now. The link will be up. And if you have not gone through it, definitely do it.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to get out there and do it. I mean, if you have any problems, people talk about how, the city needs to change. Well, here's your chance to voice your opinions and get out there and do that survey. So,
yeah, and the survey is there's really, you get right on it, and the first question is like, what building do you really, really like? Yeah. And there are lots of buildings in Ottawa that I don't like. There's lots of housing in Ottawa that I don't like. But we want to hear from people. Give us an example of what your building is, so we can go out and take a look at it.
Yeah.
And it may be much different from what I like. So that's the type of thing we're interested in, where we really want to get beyond sort of the city hall watchers and into the regular community.
So what came about for the Livable Ottawa? So the official plan gets renewed every 5 years. This is part of the new official plan going forward, and we're trying to look about 20 years into the future of where we want to see Ottawa go.
Right. So let's just lay this out for you. Every city in Ontario has to have an official plan. An official plan is the penultimate planning document. It is sort of the Bible of planning. Underneath it, what implements it, the rules that implement it, are called a zoning bylaw. And the zoning bylaw's got to conform with the rules. We and a lot of the problems that we've been having in the past stem from the fact that the zoning bylaw doesn't implement the official plan. So you would have the official plan that says tall building is going to go on that corner, and the zoning would say, well, it's only two-story. It only allows a two-story building. So there's that real conflict. And you've seen that conflict play out all across the newspapers, on TV, on radio, on podcasts.
And in the past, especially in the past 4 years, it seems to be such a disconnect between city, developers, and associations and the constituents.
Absolutely, because we caught behind change, right? Change started happening faster. The condo market took off, and we needed to start to catch up to that, and we never really did. And what we're doing now is trying to catch up, get ahead, and provide some certainty for both residents and developers.
And it's not just that. There's 12 key planning issues that you're trying to look at. It brings together the official plan, transportation master plan, infrastructure master plan, cycling plan, and pedestrian plan. So it is a massive undertaking. I would say this is one of the biggest undertakings that Ottawa's had, where it gathers the information from its citizens, right?
Well, this one certainly. Most planning exercises, a lot of planning exercises, when you mention the official plan, people's eyes glaze over. Yeah. When you mention cycling and transportation, people's eyes, what are you talking about? But you're absolutely right. Because of the focus on planning and on tall buildings and on condos in Westboro and on transportation, cycling, and the tragedies that are happening around some cycling and pedestrians, what we're finding is that people are really interested. So it's become one of the most important pieces of work that the city is doing.
Yeah, and I was at the forum a week ago, and that was an excellent function. And it was very interesting meeting several people from across the city, a lot of them members from different community associations, and it was interesting talking to people from different associations and hearing their view, because I go to my association meetings as much as possible. But their main concern and what they really wanted to hear a lot of was, is the city actually going to listen to what we say this time? And there is, and a lot of the planners were taking so many notes, which is great. So we're just excited to see because they said they're going to take all their notes and make it public. So we're just very excited to see if they did listen to what we're saying and it will be implemented.
Yeah, part of the challenge, and it's a challenge that a lot of people want to talk at a very micro level.
Yes.
Yeah.
On my corner, what's going to happen on my corner? I don't want it to be any more than 4 stories. Well, we may decide that the policy says, no, that should be 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Or that should be 3. Urban planning is, and the policies, what we want to be able to do in this official plan is to give people some concrete idea about what's going to happen in their community. It may not be what they expect, but it will be clear. It will be unambiguous. It will say, this corner there will be a tall building. It will be between X and Y. It will be 19 stories. It could be less, but it's not going to be more. There'll be no reason. There'll be no policy that you can point to in the official plan that says, if I can put taller buildings here. And if you have a community design plan, the community design plan takes precedence.
Okay. And you're looking at getting the zoning bylaws in place by June 2014?
Yeah, June 2014.
June 2014, and so hopefully after that we can lay to rest all the animosity between all the stakeholders in the city, and we can get going forward and all be on the same page. That's right. Ultimately what I want.
That's right. And you know what? You've put in a nutshell exactly the way we want to approach this, so that when we're talking about a building, everyone knows it's 19 stories or 6 stories, and we can be more focused on, what does this do at the street level? How does it animate? What does it look like? So that we're creating good urban street fabrics and not arguing about how high this building is, because we'll do that comprehensively across the city.
And again, in the survey, you address those quite separately, and I like that. Larger buildings, I think, would be great near the main transit lines, whereas on main streets maybe a little bit smaller there. And so if people have their opinions, go ahead again, do the survey, and
asking where else you can do more intensification, where you can put taller buildings on different streets such as Walkley, South Keys, different areas like that, and trying to make more active community. That's another huge aspect of Livable Ottawa is making. And you had the speaker from Toronto, the health,
the doctor from the Peel region.
Yeah,
you're right. The challenge with where some of our buildings go, we want to make sure we know where our tall buildings are, but we also want to do that so that in some of our single family home communities, they know that they're not targets for intensification, and there's not going to be a big building plopped down in the middle. There might be a big lot that's severed into 2.
Yeah.
But the issue is not going to be it's not going to be accept this because it's intensification. It's going to be accept this because it's compatible and it's reasonable. So there are different tests, so that someone isn't using the intensification argument to justify whatever they want.
And one quick question I had from my community association that they really wanted to see with the Centertown CDP was that they put a huge list of recommendations towards a CDP, and when John Dark did the plan, we gave feedback. We worked really hard over some years, some months, meeting, volunteering our time, and they just didn't see a lot of the responses listened to. So how?
Well, we met with the Centertown Citizens Community Association, and we met with the property owners just recently to try to come to some resolution. The cold hard fact of it is that sometimes, from a professional planning perspective, you're just not going to be able to accommodate what a community association wants. For example, a lot of some of our streetscapes are mixed use right now.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes people believe that when they're mixed use, they're going to migrate away from residential and more to commercial, and there'll be less residential. So they don't like that mixed use designation. And that was one of the issues that the Centertown Citizens Group had. But it's mixed use for a reason. It recognizes what exists there today. And although we understand the concern of the community,
but you do read the the comments.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, no. We can go through them point by point, but it becomes a difference of opinion. And what we don't want to do is plan to the lowest common denominator. I mean, this isn't a negotiation that makes everything drab and flat. It's to make things exciting.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Peter. It went by very quickly.
It did.
Yeah. We learned so much. We're going to have a lot of information on livable Ottawa. Next week, we have the MPP in charge of the Labour for Ontario, Yasser Naqvi.
Oh, cool.
So it's going to be a very interesting chat next week.
Ask him about interest arbitration.
Absolutely.
Yasser, if you're listening, interest arbitration is what you need to respond to.
And we'll play one more track from Three Little Birds. Sorry we didn't play another song, but have a great day. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna make shame more shameful by making it public.